Okay, a very good morning to all, and thanks to all the presenters and participants for being here today and joining our first UNIMAS virtual conference. So, welcome to the 13th International UNIMAS Engineering Conference 2020, with the theme of empowering industry and transforming society through engineering, technology, and management. I am Leonard, a lecturer from Faculty of Engineering, UNIMAS, also a member of ACES project. Will be the moderator for today's special track 5 on social innovation in STEM plus education. So we are indeed very honored to have the ACES project Malaysian team headed by Dr. JC Lim Binoy, who is today's special track chairperson. And so thank you very much for agreeing to be part of the ENCON 2020 with Dr. JC and the team. So this special track will consist the morning session beginning with the introduction to STEM plus education and ACES project by Dr. JC, followed by the sharing on trends technologies in STEM plus education by Dr. Azani Mujahid and Associate Professor Dr. Tan Chong Eng, and pedagogical strategies for deep learning by Associate Professor Dr. Fitri Suraya Muhammad and Mr. Chua Ki Man. So we shall have a lunch break from 12:30 to 2 p.m. and the afternoon session will be in the brainwork breakout, followed by the pitch and patch, which I'm sure will be fun. So please stay tuned throughout today's session so that you won't miss the fun. So to all the attendees, if you have any questions during the session, please feel free to type it in the chat box, where I'll be gathering all the questions to be shared during the Q&A session. So without any further ado, we'll let Dr. Jessie to take over.
Hello, good morning. So we'll share the slide. Okay. Better? All right. So welcome everyone to this special track on the ENCON 2020 online. Good morning to all the participants. Thank you, Chairperson, for introducing and inviting us to this special track. Also, today we are going to share to you about the introduction to social innovations on STEM, in STEM plus education. I am Jessilyn from UNIMAS. And before we start, it would be lovely to actually get participants to tell us where you are from, you know, which exotic city or country you're from. Okay? So please feel free to type in the chat so at least we know where you're from. And then, yes, we have a total of actually 182 participants registered to this special track. And majorities are teachers from what we have gathered, educators from schools, colleges, universities, NGO, industry, consulting firms, parents, and even interested individuals. So we have gathered, they are members from Indonesia. They are part of our ACES team. So, yep, thank you. And also all Malaysians, thank you so much. As you can see from the Wordle, we have a lot of participants from Sekolah Kebangsaan Primary School. And it's either from public primary school as well as private primary school. That's what we have gathered. Thank you again for joining us today. So today we'll be discussing, sharing with you on my session, who we are and what do we do, and that will lead to what social innovation is, especially in STEM plus education. We will also give a brief what is STEM plus education, and as well as today's program. So in brief, I'm sorry about the slides, a bit slow. So in brief, we are actually from ACES team Malaysia. It has a mind on its own, I'm sorry. We are ACES team from UNIMAS, and yes, sorry about it again, it keeps on popping up. The ACES team is in Malaysia as well as in the UK. Vietnam, and Indonesia. So we collaborate together with 4 different countries. And yes, and I will briefly introduce to you our work as well. So we are actually at the Gamification Center in UNIMAS. So you can always follow us at the website. And then these are our team. Okay, so we come from multidisciplinary ACES team. So most of us are educationists, learning sciences, network scientists, engineers, GIS, analysts, computer scientists, as well as a marine biologists. So why do we have all these mixed multidisciplinary team members? Because we're looking at the SDGs from climate change to smart cities to clean water to improving the quality education. Okay, so the ACES project aims to investigate the transformative education towards developing social resilience. So that's what we're looking at, as you can see on the most right-hand side. So we're looking at using playful pedagogy as well as Google methodology. And again, our partners are Malaysia, the UK, Vietnam, and Indonesia. And aligning with the UK SDG on equitable, inclusive quality education, and that's why we are all here today, we are looking at developing an innovative pedagogy model, which will be introduced today, a few of the models, and its associated programs of playful, experimental, co-creative, and participatory activities. The aim of this model that will be developed is actually to bridge the formal and informal education context and as well as space. So we will not only looking at classroom context, but we will also be looking at outside classroom and getting teachers as well as students and communities, universities, all working together in building the youth as well as the community, the parents of the youth towards inclusive, safe, and resilient society. Right, so the ACES team, as you can see, what is it for Sarawak? As we all know that Sarawak is moving towards the Sarawak Digital Economy Agenda, IR 4.0, with the emergence of the industrial revolutions, Education 4.0 comes in, and that was initiated by the World Economic Forum in desire to approach to learning. So what is Education 4.0? It aims to create a common agenda to transform primary and secondary education systems to ensure future readiness among the coming and the next generations of talents. The initiation will drive impact through 4 connected interventions. So as you can see, we will be looking at reskilling, upskilling teachers, as well as students, as well as educators, and even individuals. Whoever stakeholders would want to be involved and would want to move further in the next generation in transforming into what we call a transformation change to becoming the 21st century citizens. We are also looking at a global framework of transforming or shifting the content of learning and mechanism by which it is delivered more closely mirror to the needs of the future, as well as the needs of the community, as things has evolved with the given technology, as well as the current pandemic. And now that we're even moving into using a webinar instead of a face-to-face conference. So in highlighting the new policy pathway to enable this Education 4.0, we'll be working together with stakeholders, and these stakeholders are not just teachers, not just you and I, not just university, but we will also work together with NGOs, government, because we are all a community in this whole world system in order to improve the delivery of curriculum and enhancing pedagogy. Every stakeholder, every member, all the helix quadratic system has to work together to ensure this all work. And with this, we could build a marketplace for connectivity, collaboration, and learning between school and schooling systems across the world. Okay? So in hope, we will be able to untap talents among teachers and students, especially in Malaysia, to ensure that we do not lose out the race to achieve IR 4.0. So next, we'll be going to introduce to you what STEM is. Okay. So STEM Plus, as the word says, the plus is an acronym, incorporates the application of ICT and media technologies, co-creation, thinking methodology, design thinking approach into the traditional STEM discipline. So it has been shown and it has been researched and mentioned that technology actually supports education and could improve students' learning outcomes, including higher order skills. And these are all through learning by doing. So these are the current labor market data in Malaysia that we have captured, even in the world. Yeah. So labor market has shown that cognitive knowledge is required, skills are required, abilities associated with STEM education are in demand. So it is not just traditional STEM occupation. We are no longer building factory workers. We are building 21st century skilled workers, and this can be done through STEM education. In a high school level, in both rural and urban communities and across all nations, in the whole of Malaysia, many students are not even provided with the extra courses, technologies that they need to develop and deepen their mathematics and science skills and knowledge. So these are the few issues that we have captured, and this could be due to the boundary, political boundaries, racial boundaries, all these exist, and these would cause inequality in assessing the right sort of education or the success of STEM education and in STEM subjects. So interestingly, again, these gaps are not new. In the market, low market, labor market, as well as the gap in STEM. These gaps are definitely not new. They reflect a long-standing pattern in resource allocation. Teachers or even educators in university are saying there's no funding, not enough resources being allocated, and therefore the students' performance and access to all these resources in STEM is decreasing, could be decreasing, and this is widely acknowledged, not just in Malaysia, not just in Sarawak, but as well as all around the world. So in STEM, the funding availability of high-quality programming continues to also be inconsistent. There are certain areas that get funding for resources. There are certain areas that do not get funding for resources. And therefore, strong STEM pedagogy are required. And at the moment, could be lacking, could not be lacking, but if there is a lack, there is a need to have a strong STEM plus education pedagogy. So in order to understand all this STEM education, there are also limited familiarity and understanding among public with the acronym of STEM. The word STEM has been overused, STEM, and the misconception about STEM education, STEM plus education, when to use it, how to use it, and who to teach all these disciplines. These are all issues, but these are common issues that we can't run away from it. So in light of this unfamiliarity about STEM education, STEM instruction remains in the current practice, the traditional course pathway that places math as the basic, science in secondary, technology and engineering as a supplement add-ons to later for some of the students. Of course, there is an important difference in STEM disciplines in order for our students, educators to fit in the real world. And therefore, researchers suggest that interdisciplinary approach can enhance student learning for better model STEM processes in real world. Interdisciplinary approach. Teachers can't work on STEM on their own. The schools cannot be on their own. The schools will have to work with communities. The schools will have to work with universities. And that is where all of us will come hand in hand to work together to ensure that STEM plus education would work. It is also therefore perceived, with the elitism of STEM discipline or you are from the science side, you are from the art side. All these disciplines of STEM fails to recognize actually the benefit of STEM education in promoting a higher level critical thinking skills and lifelong social engagement, regardless of students' post-secondary plans or career aspirations. So let's hope that STEM discipline doesn't limit to STEM discipline, that we would also get the arts in, we will also get language in, we will also get culture into that STEM. So therefore, it is the aim of today's workshop, today's track, is that we would share with you, or perhaps we would find some innovation and critical access to high quality learning experience. So it is fortunate to say that the research team in UNIMAS were going on full gear to really understand what is the world looking at in terms of STEM education, where does the world stand, and how can we move Malaysia together with this same forward progress of STEM. So in our workshop, even in our talk, feel free to continue chatting, continue to ask, post your questions, which we will answer later on at the end of all the talks and every single session in the afternoon session as well. Allow yourself to also start a conversation. Okay? There are a lot of opportunities for social innovation. Do not be afraid with the term innovation. Everybody innovates. When light bulbs are broken, we innovate with a different light bulb that may look pretty or may function for a different purpose with brighter lights or darker lights or different colors. So give us an opportunity to talk about all the possible social innovation. We can talk about water quality, we can talk about climate change, and that we will work together in motivating one another in achieving this transformative change. So, social education and social innovation comes hand in hand, right? So it's a new pathway for educational model. For instance, if you look at social innovation, the word social comes from society. So we have to learn to work together with community and society. And with that, we could actually achieve the 21st century skills. So we are still focusing on quality education. We're looking at building the 21st century skills, such as creativity, critical thinking. I'm sure all teachers, educators are experiencing this. Even those who are working in industry listening to us right now would also find that these skills are lacking. But lo and behold, we don't need to be wary. This can be trained, untrained and retrained and upskill all these skills. And hopefully, students and individuals can be innovative and also be an entrepreneur. Okay. So in general, social innovation in education and lifelong learning and beyond can benefit from new opportunities provided by technology. For instance, one can include playful biogamification while fostering digital literacy at the same time, meaning you can use games, game-based learning, and the overall of gamification together with your knowledge in digital. You can use WebEx as we use today, or you can use any different applications, Kahoot, for example, gamifying Kahoot, and this to create a new practice as well as learning context using adequate digital devices. Okay? The examples of trends and technologies will be presented in the next talk, and they will be focusing on the establishment of different and completely new practices in education. The speakers will also focus on changes in education beyond existing paths and approaches that is linked to the establishment of social innovation, building on a more holistic and bottom-up perspective and grassroots, integrating all relevant stakeholders, actors, and communities. There are also potential strategies, example co-creation, whereby you would have a first hands-on that could provide a leeway to social innovation. That will be in the afternoon sessions. They will call this design thinking, radical, disruptive thinking concept, which is which is usually or commonly used in industry in the West. It's often absent from the structure of formal education. It's the recognition that hands-on experience is needed, whereby we should allow our students to experience failure. I know it is a taboo, but from learning what failure is, what we learn to be successful. Here, play is an essential role in learning academic subjects. Learning failure can be incorporated in play. Okay, so intentional play activities can support this type of learning experience by providing students with time to explore the uncertainty, construct knowledge from experience, and strengthen relationships between their peers as well as with teachers, and majorly teachers will put things outside classroom in their clubs, and they work together with communities. I reckon the world will be a better. So with that, I would like to say thank you for listening to my talk this morning. I'll be the introduction today. Do keep an open mind, and I hope that you will find that the next and following session today benefiting and enlightening to you all. So any questions again will be answered at the end of these 3 sessions. Please post your questions in the chat box. If we have the time, we will definitely have the time. We will answer all the possible questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jessie, for the very eye-opening talk. Okay. So next we will call upon Dr. Ansani and Associate Professor Dr. Tan Chong Eng to talk about trends and technologies in STEM plus education. So if you have any questions, please share with us over the chat, and then we will get to it later. Hello, welcome, Dr. Ozani.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay.
Okay, welcome, Dr. Azani.
Hi, can you see our presentation screen with the title?
Not yet. We're still seeing you.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
The session is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning to our participants who are joining us from wherever you are today. I hope you are safe. Thanks to the conference organizers for having us, and I'd like to especially thank the ACES project as well for inviting me and Dr. Tan to speak. Shout out to our sponsors, the Global Challenges Research Fund, that have believed in the impactful work that's being done here in UNIMAS towards transformative education through playful approaches and experiences. So the presentation session today is actually divided into 2. I will cover a little bit about the trends and technologies, and Associate Professor Dr. Tan will be delving into the case studies of ICT adoption projects that have been done with the Orang Asli community. If you do a very quick question search on Google, what do you get when you type in trends and technologies in STEM education in Malaysia? In less than a second, you get over 1 million hits. So there's numerous written materials that's available. Lots of journal papers as well as opinion topics have been written devoted towards trends in STEM technologies and different STEM domains at all different education levels from K to university. Oftentimes, a lot of material becomes overwhelming, and it's unpractical as well, because not all advisories may be adopted for our local context use. So there's extensive literature already available, and I'll just summarize into very quickly 4 main domains of trends for our consideration and discussion. So firstly, STEM subject teachers have to deliver their material, and they're no longer confined to traditional ways of delivery or problem-solving techniques. And there's a big need now to enhance a lot of this critical thinking and adopting of these new techniques, including co-creation, which the previous speaker, JC, had mentioned, to solve a lot of the problems which are future problems. And delivering of this material has to concurrently improve the students' motivation. So the students have to feel like they are buying into these new techniques of learning, as well as parents have to understand that a lot of the new technologies are catered for future learning, not the way we used to traditionally learn. And this helps to improve a lot of these new abstract concepts, and that can happen organically. And secondly, there are many new innovative trends in the teaching and learning processes, but in terms of a local context, what would work? For example, if you're having soft topics such as gender inclusivity or leadership in schools, diversity among teachers, or teachers now play a different role. They tend to be expert facilitators, facilitating and curation of the knowledge. And a lot of times, some of the work, like what has been done with ACEs, with the flipped learning as well, some teachers will be familiar with that. It becomes that the teachers are curating the knowledge that the students develop organically themselves from their own reading and experience. So thirdly, there's expensive and growing access to ICT tools. And this begins even from children who are very young and 3 years old age, for example. I've been to villages where children 3 years old have parents and grandparents that do not speak English, but the children sound like Peppa Pig, right? So this is actually growing in a lot of our rural villages where the access to technology has allowed the children to learn at an expensive rate beyond what we are familiar with. Now, STEM gains the same prominence with the children from early childhood education. And this begins very early and grows towards until university stage, where a lot of material is available online for lifelong learning through MOOC or FutureLearn. I think many are familiar already with this platforms, educational platforms. Right. So, and lastly, the third and fourth point I'd like to make are the power of the social media. Social media and social networks are very obvious in a lot of the youth movements nowadays. One very clear highlight is Greta Thunberg. A lot of people are quite familiar with her. The climate justice movement among the youth was very powerful, and they even had space to speak in the United Nations. And a growing one in recent weeks with the Milk Tea Alliance. It's an online democratic solidarity movement which has a lot of youth netizens up in arms from Hong Kong and Taiwan and Thailand. And the youth has found they can grow a lot of soft skills through online platforms. They learn skills such as advocacy, negotiation, and improve their community skills. Communicative skills are one of the hardest to teach in school, and online platforms actually allow this new age of communication to happen. And so STEM knowledge, STEM plus knowledge, including the growth of languages, has improved greatly with young and the youth, also through Netflix, YouTube, and this is not uncommon anymore. A question that I always ask my students when they enter my class would be, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's quite common that the answers now are maybe shocking to us, but it's quite common that I hear answers such as, I want to be an influencer. Now, these are jobs that did not exist in our vocabulary in the last 5 to 10 years, right? These are all very new. And these are one of the top dream jobs among our youth today. Now, we can't look at influencers as just people who sell makeup or they're selling products. A lot of influencers are also STEM influencers, STEM plus educators. For example, David Attenborough, who is a traditional speaker in documentaries, has now moved towards the use of Facebook to answer questions and engage with young learners. And so the influence of the social media and online channels, it's growing rapidly also in Malaysia. Now, this fits well into the growth of future jobs. According to the World Economic Forum, around the world, future jobs up to 133 million workers will be in these emerging new roles, right? The new kinds of jobs that we probably have not heard before. So we are actually training students to be ready for future jobs that may not yet exist. And this is heavily concentrated on specialists that deal with relationships of big data, relationships with technology, machine learning, and professionals who are involved in then human relations as well, in sales or in customized services. The top 5 skills in demand in the near future would be communication, ability to work as a team, problem solving, leadership, and strong work ethics. And today, these are feedbacks that we often get from employers as well, that the youth are not ready for jobs because these skills are not yet perfected. So in the new ways of learning, what is expected, right? If you look at the definition from the Malaysian Education Blueprint, student-centered approaches aligned to the 21st century skills, such as communication, critical thinking, values, ethical applications, are really pivotal to our children to learn. And there's a big gap here. Are educators agile enough to teach these new skills? Are they equipped to teach these new skills at a fast enough pace, keeping up with technology as well and expectations of the learner? So what can teachers do? I got this picture last night from David Attenborough's tweet. And he highlights the tree that doesn't give up. And I feel that teachers are very much like this tree, right? Even when you're faced with challenges, naturally teachers will adapt and they continually grow and they grow stronger. And I think this is where teachers in Malaysia show their dedication, right? The dedication to change according to what are the needs of the country. And so teachers entering this new role where they are starting to curate delivery of their assessments using tools which are preferred by learners, which have matching to internet stability, which take into account how much bandwidth use the students have and how much technology the students have, as well as new techniques such as gamification. Before we start a class, I would actually encourage that students, teachers, try to do these survey tests for students to see how they like to learn. And then the common answers, such as in my own classes, are they like to watch videos, they still like to read text and read comments online. They like to do discussions with group works and quizzes as well as assignments. So continuous learning is still very popular. So then I try to do walls such as sharing walls, such as in Answer Garden, where I can pose a question and students can answer. You can have a look at these later. We will attach the sites, so you can have a look at how the sites are. You can also use sharing walls such as Padlet to get information of, like for example, where they are. And social media, I think, is also still very powerful. A lot of students prefer using WhatsApp for conversations, so they feel close with the educator. Or YouTube channels such as like what Kiman has is also very popular because then YouTube doesn't take too much bandwidth. I tend to also use QR codes, such as, for example, QR code monkey. So it's easy for parents who may not be able to read and write to actually just scan the QR from their phone, and the parents can open the pages for their students. And then I'll go very quickly into the gamification of learning. These are some websites that exist. I teach marine science, and there are a lot of games that are freely available online, and so teachers don't feel that they need to create all the time. They can actually adapt a lot of material that's already available. So these few websites are just examples. Reef School, for example, teaches about the marine environment and what Nemo needs to grow. And there are different types of fun games that are available for all different levels. And you can learn a lot of STEM concepts from these. You learn about colors. So in art, you also learn about spectrum of color, and this is also found in STEM websites. I also have used 3D printed models. I think these ones, if you have access to a makerspace where the teachers can print 3D models, that's also something teachers can look towards to creating their own material. Besides the typical games that are available, so this is one game that's made by Malaysians for Malaysians, so it's a Malaysian context game. Teachers can think about that. How do you want to create content that is suited for the local context? This happens a lot in the gamification lab, the gamification center here, under the Creative Culture project, a sister project for ACES. And they try to create games that help the students to learn for local context. So I'm coming to the last slide before I pass on to Dr. Tan. So teachers can work towards curating tools that are specific for their own needs, and it can be meaningful to engage students this way, using tools that are suited to them for their own learning local context. So thank you very much. I'll pass on to the next speaker here. If there's anything, just please leave a note on the chat box, and we'll try and get back to you later. Thank you.
All right, good morning, and this is Tan Chong Eng. I would like to continue the session by sharing the case studies on adopting ICT as tools for learning and development. ICT adoption shares similar nature with STEM education. Okay? And it's just that when it's come to ICT adoptions for the rural community, the approaches used have to be adjusted in order to achieve the desired outcome, as well as allowing the technology itself to be usable for a long period of time. Here, I would like to share some of our previous experience on ICT adoptions implemented through the telecenter program for Orang Asli in West Malaysia. In short, we call this TPOA. And researchers' engagement with the Orang Asli communities were started as early as 2011. The official project duration was from 2013 to 2018, but of course, various activities are still ongoing until today. So the TPO project covers a wide scope, and it was a multidisciplinary project involving not only technologies such as engineering and computer scientists, but also social scientists, educators, and health specialists. The main objective was to bridge the digital divide between the remote rurals and the urban, whereby this thing is to facilitate communication, also to provide access to useful information. Through this project, telecenters are used as rural transformation centers to drive rural developments, and it is also a resource center for knowledge and skills. To provide education via ICT, to provide training for local capacity building, and to provide health-related information. And of course, there are actually 5 specific development programs riding on top of the ICT infrastructures to utilize social and economic developments in the Orang Asli community. So there were 4 Orang Asli communities being selected with the help from Jabatan Kemajuan Orang Asli, and 2 at Pahang State, namely Pos Intu and Pos Lenjang, another 2 at Kelantan State, namely Pos Kop and Pos Bala. The main reason they were selected was due to their extreme remoteness and the ICT adoption could possibly bring the biggest impacts on the community. Yes, remoteness is the great challenge here. All the sites, at least during the early stage of projects, they were physically challenging to access. There was some access road improvement efforts seen through after some time, but for the rest of the site, the access is still as challenging. The access roads are not always accessible due to many factors such as broken bridges, landslide, and too high the water level for the four-wheels drive vehicle to cross. And the journey is always very costly, dangerous, and you can be trapped in the middle of nowhere if unlucky. Participatory approach is actually one of the important methodologies used in TPOA projects, and the participation of local community started even before the project proposal. The needs for telecenter in the community has been discussed for numerous times as to motivate and to engage. For long-term sustainability, the sense of belonging and the actual needs of the community must be addressed by the telecenter. Hence, start from telecenter's building and planning, there were locations, the location and the construction of the telecenters were decided and carried out by the respective local community. For all other stages, such as ICT system, installations, operations, maintenance, training, and troubleshooting, the community is also closely participated. Each telecenter buildings were uniquely built, whereby the project supplied some of the non-organic building materials such as cement, metal road, etc. All the other materials such as wood and bamboo were sourced locally by the local community. The community gathers and form working groups for the task, which shall bring greater sense of belonging to the telecenter and at the same time empowering the communities itself. On top of that, community develop capacity to build houses because they do not get used to build permanent houses like this. They're used to bamboo houses. So they will get to develop these skills, and of course they will also develop a stronger unity through group work. So telecenter caretakers that has been elected from the local communities will be involved in the installation, operation, and maintenance of the ICT system. This part of the participation is crucial as the future ICT system operation and maintenance are to be carried out by them. There's no others support because we cannot always be there to support them. So they have to do it all by themselves. They are the champion of the developments to the local community for ICT adoptions and also the key personnel for sustaining the operation, which include providing routine maintenance. Training. Training is essential for ICT adoptions across the community. The best trainer shall come from the community itself. Hence, the local elected caretaker that has been trained with sufficient knowledge will make great trainer owing to they understand the local needs better and they do not have language barrier when conducting training for the rest of the community. Because for us, when we conduct in Bahasa, they are still having problems to understand. So the best trainer is still by the community. So when it comes to troubleshooting of ICT system problem, through the guidance provided remotely by us from the urban, through some ICT communication systems, then they can develop capacity to self-sustain the telecenter and to ensure continuous operation. And lastly, we have a question here for you, for all educators, is that if you are to put up with such challenging remote rural environment as an educator, so what are the things that you can do to enable your students to participate in STEM plus education? So this is a point to ponder. So just imagine yourself in such scenario. So what should you do? And thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any question, I think it's good that you leave it at the chat session so that we will get back to you. And that's all for this session. Thank you very much. I think our next session will start in a few minutes time. According to time. Thank you, Selena. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Azami and Dr. Tan. So we while waiting for the next presenter, what I will do is that I will play a video, about 3 minutes video, for you guys to have a view of what has been done before this.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the next session. Today, I'll be continuing with Dr. Fitri next to me. My name is Joaquiman, and call me Kiman. So we'll be sharing more on the pedagogical strategies for deep learning. You may have heard of deep learning from the IT perspective, which is kind of like machine learning, but we're not talking about that deep learning. We're talking more, we're focusing more on the deeper learning part that we can do in our normal day-to-day teaching or in the classroom. So I'm going to start off with some introduction, and then, as I said, Professor Dr. Fitri Suraya will continue with some of the strategies that you can kind of consider in your teaching and learning in order to adapt, how to put it, deep learning in your teaching and learning. Okay, so just a quick overview of what is happening now. I think we kind of know, like what Dr. JC had mentioned earlier, the STEM education in Malaysia is getting a bit of bad perception, or I would say slightly bad press, especially in terms of how it is done in schools, because we know that there is a declining interest in STEM education or STEM subjects across all levels of education since primary school, secondary school, even up until tertiary education. I think we feel it even in universities. You get students who switch from sciences to the arts or humanities with the understanding that STEM subjects are difficult, or they just can't cope with the need of all this high level or high order thinking, higher order thinking. So we are also in the dilemma of looking at how the whole education system is structured in Malaysia. In a way, STEM subjects, like all other subjects, are kind of structured in an examination mode, where a lot of students are pressured to take science subjects maybe by the parents or even by the school just to perform in the exam, PMR, PT3 now, even SPM or STPM. Even some schools limit students from taking STEM subjects just to protect the percentage of passing across the statistics that they get every year. So I think it's not an encouraging sign. Then number 3, of course, STEM subjects are taught by non-option teachers, and this has caused a lot of problems as well. And Dr. Jessie had mentioned that earlier in her presentation. So what can be done in the global context, apart from the local context that we mentioned just now? I think you see this list like over and over again. I saw the one for top 10 skills of 2020, and then you see the same thing being repeated. Analytical thinking, innovative thinking, critical thinking, creativity. All this has been around for quite some time. But this time around, the World Economic Forum kind of grouped them into 4 main types. You can see in the slides there, and all 4 are not that easy to be done if we do not try to use a different kind of approach or a different kind of pedagogical strategy, or else we'll be repeating the same thing over and over again. So what can be done? Well, one of the strategies that we can look into is, of course, the new deep learning pedagogy. It's not really new, but the name was called New Deep Learning Pedagogy before that by Fullen and Langworthy. They created this kind of diagram to explain what they meant by deep learning. So just to give you an overall understanding of what it is, the old pedagogy is just we have the content knowledge, we have the pedagogical capacity, we have the technological tools. But what was done was just to deliver the content, pass the exam, and then that's it. But in a deep learning kind of approach, you don't just do it for the sake of passing the content from A to B. You do it by giving them opportunity to get more autonomy or empowerment in terms of their learning. So I'm going to pass to Dr. Fitri now to explain further on what deep learning is about, and then we'll see how it can help you in your teaching and learning.
Okay. Hello, Assalamualaikum. Very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to ENCON for inviting us to present the for all of you today. And I'm going to continue a bit about deep learning, which Kiman has started just now. When we talk about deep learning, it's about the way we pitch our teaching. Yeah, it's how do we make sure that the learning comes to a point where the students become self-motivated. The students see the point of why they are learning something, and I think this is missing in a lot of our classrooms because when we look at the syllabus, sometimes we tend to see the syllabus being like a small bit out of a bigger picture, and sometimes the connection that we make between the topics that we teach may not be apparent for the students, and this is the reason why I think a lot of students lose interest and they don't see the point of why they're learning. When we talk about deep learning, these are what we found from reading, on this pedagogy. But to be honest with you, they are not anything new. And like character education, we have been using this in our sistem pendidikan Malaysia for the longest time. All of our curriculum has always been geared towards building the holistic individual, and being honest, being self-regulated, being responsible. All these values are already there in our curriculum. Citizenship, we have always aligned our education system to the Rukun Negara, and this has been inculcated in the way that we choose the topics that we teach, the context in which we present our content, and also the way that we want to get people to love the country because of the things that they are learning in school, and communication, critical thinking, collaboration, creativity. All this is part and parcel. It takes a central role in our Malaysian education blueprint. And this is not something which is completely new. It's just, I guess, old wine in new bottles. But it's a nice departure for people who may not know how important it is to make a link between all these things, that in a way it would affect uptake in science and technology and in mathematics. And even in UNIMAS, we see this as well, that we are losing candidates applying for our science stream programs here. So I'm sure this is also a trend that we're seeing in all other universities as well. How do we do this? What are the things that we need to think about? Number one, we suggest looking at restructuring the way that we want learning to happen. So the learning experience is contextualized in a way that the students see the point. Yeah, it's not just achieving the learning outcomes that we have listed out for the for the session, but rather to see, okay, if I do this, how does this inform what I will learn the next day and the next month? And this mastery of content can literally be built as and when we are able to communicate this with the students. The next bit is on allowing students to create and also to use new knowledge. And we see this a lot in our projects. Almost all of our team members in ACES, we have all gone down to the ground and we have worked with remote rural communities all over Sarawak and Sabah. And what we see is that children are not afraid to learn new things. It's just a matter of putting the construction of that learning experience in a way that they will be able to use it to progress in their own communities. And this is something that we have to be brave. We have to take a risk in order to enable this to happen, this opportunity to happen. The next bit is about showing the why. So rationalizing, the content that we are teaching, the content that we want them to learn. I think this is where we help them make the link from one topic to another topic to another topic. Even in the way that we choose the examples that we use in class, link it to what they understand. I'm not saying that you have to use, every other lesson you have to use a TikTok example, but relate to them. Yeah, make it relatable, make the content relatable, show them why it is important to learn that content that you're teaching. So in that sense, they begin to build how do you say this? It's like they're looking forward to what will be presented in the next lesson, and this will obviously increase their motivation to learn. We talked about shared mental model a lot in our classes in the Masters in Learning Science in Unimas. Shared mental model talks about how people come together and collaborate. Now, in any collaboration, the most important thing is you need to have the language to talk to people. A lot of times I see even my students at master's level, they struggle to discuss effectively with each other because of the lack of language, because of the lack of understanding of words. So when this happens, the collaboration breaks down. Yeah, what we need to do is to foster this collaborative learning environment to happen, so the students are able to make substantive and also negotiated decisions together. To be able to do this, they need to understand what their peers would know, yeah, so that they can build upon that knowledge and create new knowledge as they go along. Leveraging on digital tools, I think this is said, more than but it's something that we constantly need to take risks and to learn all the time, to, like what Dr. JC said, to learn, relearn, and unlearn. Especially now that we're in the pandemic, nobody comes to class and everybody has to, learn new skills in teaching. For those of us who are shy in front of a camera, you have to face the camera to teach the students. So these are all new skills that I guess in training we were not even taught. But I think digital tools are here to stay, and it is not something that we should be afraid of, and we should learn to use whichever that fits the way that we teach. Yeah, it doesn't mean that we use all tools in order to, entertain. I always remind my students that when we teach, remember that you're not an entertainer. Yeah, you're here to make them engage, but it's not about, coming up with entertaining elements all the time. Yes, it can be fun, it can be interesting, but at the end of the day, it's the content that they leave from the classroom that you want them to have. Yeah. So, and I think this slide is about how the usage of technology can drive the articulation of new knowledge. And this is what we want our students to be able to do when they leave our courses, our classes, the subjects that we teach. Yeah, like for instance, developing simulations and animation. These are all high-level technical skills. But if they are interested and they understand enough about the content, they would be able to do this. Yeah. Finding information on the internet, which is the last one in the basic use list here. Almost everyone can do it. This is not something that is too challenging or too risky for them. But we try to get students to go up in this list where it goes towards knowledge creation rather than just using knowledge or consuming knowledge. And the pedagogies that we're looking at are going towards what people say learner autonomy. How do you make learners become, masters of their own learning? a lot of us are not comfortable with this. I have to, say this out because I also remind this in my classes as well. It's really easy to have teacher control classes because like what I'm doing with you right now, I'm controlling everything. The input that you get from me. There's no interaction whatsoever at the session. But then again, if this is a class, there should be some kind of a way that we move away from the teacher or the facilitator providing all of the input for the class, but rather to get learners to be empowered, to be able to talk, to be able to take lead, to be responsible with their own learning, and this takes time for us to learn and to build, and the way that we curate the task, the assessment has got to be about that towards learning engagement. So if you look at the Bloom's taxonomy, and we are talking about the highest level in the Bloom's taxonomy, it's the revised one, not the old one. The revised one, which is creation. So the use of technology has got to enable this process of creation of knowledge. Yeah. So this is very ideal. It's very idealistic. However, if it is curated properly, if we understand our content very well, and we have the language to present it well to the students, and that the students can actually articulate it in the way that they understand it, I think we have some miles to go. And deep learning isn't really about just thinking or reflecting on what has been learned, but rather it is an empowerment. This empowerment is what will drive students to move forward, to become better in their understanding. And it's not just about being compliant or complacent, in what they're learning. So it's not about finishing a syllabus, but rather to see if they finish this, what are the things that is beyond this that they are able to achieve. So that's what we look at when we look at deep learning. And as I mentioned earlier, the elements in deep learning are actually things that we are already familiar with. In PAK 21, the 4 skills plus 1, which is nilai, is already there. Communication, critical thinking, collaboration, problem solving, creativity, all these things are already in our syllabus. But how far are we using it? If you are an educator, how far are you actually using this? So we also have dialogues like this at the university to see how our lecturers, our academic staff integrate this into teaching. How do we actually instigate communication, effective communication in the classroom? How do we make sure that collaboration really works? In a classroom, we can't just pair people up and for a task that is which can be done by one person. So it requires a lot of thinking and planning and designing. So in the afternoon, if you are joining us this afternoon, we would like to invite you to a game design sprint that we will introduce to you the way we can gamify learning content. So we'll share with you our experience, what we know, and we hope that we'll be able to help you along the way in terms of seeing maybe just an alternative way of how you can present your content. And I think that's the last slide. And thank you for being with us. This is Fitri and Kiman. Kiman is here with me right next to me. And we hope to see you again later this afternoon. Thank you. Do you want to do question and answer now, Leonard?
So far we only have one question from Zalia. She said that whether she can get the slides or not for the sessions.
Sure, no problem. We'll put the whole thing together on our website. We do have a website and also our Facebook page, so you can have access to all our materials.
And then from Munira, Amir, thank you for the insightful session. I really enjoyed it. Looking forward to the afternoon session. And then Zulaika Yusuf, thank you for the very interesting and insightful presentation on deep learning. There's a question here from Aliza Alexander. How do you, ACES, tackle the challenges faced when it comes to utilizing technology resources in areas that have limited resources such as internet or gadgets?
That's a very good question. To be honest, formally within this project, we have not tackled this yet. We're still doing the theoretical investigations. We try to make sure that before we get to the ground, we understand what we're doing. Yeah. So this past 9 months of the project, we've been working very closely with the UK team and also Vietnam, Indonesia, to try to find somewhat like a central construct, yeah, that we can work towards. From our experience in previous projects, what we've seen is that the driver to this is in the way that teachers will take up, the teaching. If the teachers are open towards, flexible learning, the teachers are open to try new things, I think that is already a first step to making things progress even in remote rural communities. We don't normally completely depend on IT, yeah, because in remote rural areas, it's the access to IT is not really there. However, we do find ways to get teachers to think beyond what they're used to thinking. So like last year or the year before this, in 2019, we went to Long Lamai, which is situated in Ulu Baram. There's no road connected to the community at all, to the school. And what we got was, we had 18 teachers who were so enthusiastic to see how they can use different pedagogies to make their the teaching more interesting. So we got them, their full attention in about 1 week that we sat with them, and then we talked to them about the problems that they were facing, and then how they were going to address it, and how the pedagogical strategies can actually help to alleviate the learning problems that they have already detected among the students. So I think that worked really well, and these are some things that I think has got to go on. Yeah, for those of you who are teaching in remote and rural areas, I think the key is to always be curious and to always want to do better. Yeah, and that is really a first step towards improving your practice.
All right. We saw one question. I think everyone could see that. Okay. By Noah Amira, what are the current efforts done by educational institutions to tackle issues under SDG? And what do you think is the best way to incorporate SDG awareness in education and also the public? Yeah, interestingly, again, very good question. When we saw this question, we are also having problems in the university. Okay, educational institutions are not even aware of SDG. So for them, SDG is like a KPI when it is not a KPI. It's a lot about sustaining. When one says sustainability, kelestarian, right? Yeah, the Malay word of it. It means it's beyond. It's from the inner being that flows out to the nature, to the world, how things work in a whole ecosystem. And a lot of awareness has to be pushed. Of course, again, with the KPI in any institutions, having to answer to the last 10 years of the SDG, everyone is pushing it, but I think the top management first has to reflect, go back one step and reflect and really understand what SDGs actually mean. And that includes actually a lot of awareness. for some sort of like awareness that can be done, that we are doing actually, we will be doing in the university, is to have firstly a dialogue sessions. We will have discussion with the top management, and then it trickles down to the deans, the deputy deans, research team, and it doesn't stop there, because not only the top management has to know about it, not only those who hold positions has to know about it, it has to trickle down again to lecturers. It doesn't mean that lecturers are of a lower level, but in the case of university, but it has to be including them, because they have to understand what SDG is, the philosophy behind SDG. And then the teachers or the lecturers can then pass down to students. And one would think, okay, that's it. No, it doesn't stop there again. Awareness has to trickle back to the administrative, the technical staff, because you need to measure how much power is being used in a lab, in a whole building. How can we reduce? How can we effectively reduce electricity? So these sort of answers can be captured from the technical staff, the administrative. So that includes the managerial post has to be aware of all this. So again, there is no one community superior to only know what SDG is. So from students, when we have assignments, we bring students out to, this is before COVID. So you bring students out to the community, and then they will bring it back to their family. And this is how the knowledge should actually pass down. Hence, the SDG doesn't take 5 years. It would exceed 2030, because it's a continuous continuum to actually help Earth, to make sure that Earth sustains for our next generation and the generation more to come. So I hope I answered that question. Yeah. So if there is more questions, you're free to type it again if I do miss out. There is also another question. I should get Leonard to the chairperson to read it out.
I'm sorry, because I don't get to see the question. I think they
Okay.
probably
All right.
send it to, yeah.
All right. Okay. So there is one question from Eliza Alexander. Right. Question says, how do you, ACES, tackle the challenges faced when it comes to utilizing technology? Oh, it has been answered. Thank you very much. Yes, I also want to add on top of that, when I was reading the question, that sometimes we are so engrossed with technology that we forgot that we can salvage what is there in the surrounding. We can take parts. We can be frugal. Frugal is the new in word. So we can use leaves and stick or twigs and branches to still teach STEM, or still do some sort of innovation. I'm sure if you might have seen how communities around the world have innovated hand sanitizer. You know, like with hand soap, water. They do not have the automatic hand sanitizer where it detects your fingers or your hand. What they did was they just buy wood and they nail it and they create a whole system that links to soap and water by not using their hands, but by using their feet. So that is some sort of like social innovation that you can actually go Google. You can actually use what is around. And interestingly, we also talk a lot about play, the playful element, how we can include play. I'm sure in schools, with few schools that we have went, there is always board games that is available in a library or in a canteen, you know, a common area for students. But these board games has gone dusty and the box has been eaten by rats. So is there a way that we can utilize this? Because it's also going to, can we utilize the Monopoly, what is that, Uno? Can we actually use it in teaching? I may say a lot about teaching here, but I understand there are also industries. Can you use it as well in your training with managers, with subordinates? So there is a wide range of possibilities. I think one should not limit your capability. You just allow yourself to test it out. Then you know to the extent to when you can use it and when you cannot. So that's an addition to it. Next question is Nora Mir. That's good. Anyone with questions? Thank you. By Adila Muhammad Hashim. Hello, tentang social innovation, kita perlu ada kerjasama dari pihak luar. Bagaimana prosedur untuk mendapatkan kerjasama itu? I'm not so sure if we have English speaking. So how can we collaborate with other agencies or other stakeholders when it comes to social innovation? Is there a procedure that we can have that sort of collaboration? Yes, I would say yes, because there is an ecosystem. Even in a university, when we apply for funding, the funding that we got is actually from the UK. But even with that, you see, we have to work with different stakeholders. We have to work with industries. We have to work with parents. We have to work with different groups of communities, different groups of societies. Of course, there are procedures, mainly cultural procedures. How do we come in to communities? So we need to understand the cultural protocol as we meet different groups of communities, different groups of societies. Like how if we were to berhadap kepada yang di Ketua Raja. And so there are protocols that we have to follow. So likewise, when we go into rural communities, there are also protocols. So we will meet the Council of Elders. We will meet the JKKK. In the case of Orang Asli, we will meet a lot of different stakeholders. So there's a lot of engagement. That's the word. There's a lot of engagement that has to come in before we can actually build the trust. And with the trust, we can then work together. All right. So we focus SDG, of course, with the vision of the country. There are rules to allow collaborations to be done between universities, industry, not just that, community, not just that, policy. We need to influence, we need to inform policy. We need to make the betterment to our country. Yeah, so that are some of the procedures, but if we do have procedures or informed policies that we have, we will definitely share it in our Facebook, creativeculture.my. That is where we keep things posted, as well as our Facebook. Facebook are a bit fast, so we tend to promote a lot of our events, as well as a quick update on certain things. Thank you for that question. Very good. I love all the questions. Now let's see. We have answered all the questions, actually. Yay, we got someone from Kedah. Very exotic.
We have a question from Joshua Bell. As a student, how do we implement STEM in our social circle?
Can you repeat that again, please?
As a student, how do we implement STEM in our social circle?
In your social circle, all right. How do you implement STEM in your social circle? It depends on your social circle. This is peers. among your schoolmates, for example. I have to look back when I was a student. There is a lot of grand challenge that you get in Malaysia, even in Sarawak. You have the Young Innovate, you have the Ideathon, you have the Hackathon. So do and get involved with this. And there's a lot of competitions as well that is going on in the world. And mind you, because now with the pandemic, no one is allowed to travel, which means you have access internationally. So you work together with your peers, apply, and go for competition. We at the ACES research team, we would also be organizing competition, grand challenge. But I don't want you to just wait for us. Explore all the different competitions. And then when you explore the different competitions, try to understand what is required in all these competitions. Because different competitions has different expectations, different objectives. They may give you a certain sort of specific areas that you need to solve. Then you need to learn to ask, why are we doing this? Why do we want to do this? What can we do? So the curiosity should spark. Always ask. You love to ask questions. Why when you were younger and your parents and your teachers will always tell you, shut up. But grand challenge, this sort of competition is when you should take the opportunity to ask, what can you do? Why do we need to do this? What's wrong with climate change? So as you work on this, then you build. So it depends again on the competition. It could be using robotics. So then in any case of, the competition requires you to do a bit of programming, I'm sure the organizers would supply you with the necessary resources as you join the competition. So that's one way how you can work together with social innovation. And again, when we talk about social innovation, you need to understand the needs of the society. If we talk about, say, for example, water quality, right? So if one, let's say you get rainwater from rivers, and that is the only source of water, drinking water, how can we come up with filters, the right sort of filters for that specific river? Because all rivers are not the same. All rivers have different sort of minerals, different pH. So what is the problem with the river? So these are the questions that you need to always ask. Work together with community, because one thing a lot of researchers included, not just students, not just anyone, even researchers, we forgot that the community has their own knowledge. They may see things. They even know there is climate change. They know the world is changing because they don't have enough durian. They don't have enough fruits. When they're supposed to reap fruits, they get lesser reaps of fruits and they can't tell. So they knew something is not going right. So the local communities have this knowledge. Talk to them. Have a good engage with them. Have a good conversation with them. Build trust. Then you would collaborate. You see, it's a very simple ecosystem, and these are the simple processes how you can work, and that could build your communication, and hopefully you can be an influencer. Right? Thank you. Hope I answered that question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jessie. So far, any other questions before I probably will just have time to take the last question if there is.
There is one by Hanafia Eddy. I received one. For teachers, how to integrate STEM learning in this new norm, and what to do to spark my students' engagement in STEM learning. I'll get the educationist to answer this. Perhaps I can get Dr. Fitri, an educationist, to answer this question. For teachers, get her to sit. Last question.
For teachers, how to integrate STEM learning in the new norm. How do I spark my students' engagement in STEM? Yep. What are you teaching? May I ask? Hanafia. It depends obviously in the content that you're doing. Now, when we teach online, there's a lot of things that you need to negotiate. You can't expect students to be online completely, throughout your class. There will be times when they will probably be engaged only with you for about 10 minutes, but use that 10 minutes really, really well. I would suggest, like, if you're talking about presenting just the content knowledge, I would just pre-record or maybe ask them to watch a video, but when you ask them to do those things, embed questions. So as they are watching, they are also made to think. So from there, you are already scaffolding the way that they're thinking. When you get them in the live sessions where you actually get to interact with them, give them things that they can show to you that they are doing something beyond what is normally expected. Yeah. But this has got to be done in increment, not immediately. Oh, I want you to create something out of the blue. It has to be done in increment. So encourage that with the students, and always get them to talk with you, either in writing or orally. Yeah, the best is if they can do it orally. But if you can't do it, we all have limitations in terms of data and whatnot. I would suggest, like, get them to record. Yeah, I use Flipgrid a lot for my classes, and Flipgrid has a nice interface with students actually like it very well, because it complements what they see on Instagram. So you see all those filters in Instagram, you can see it as well in Flipgrid. So you can have all sorts of videos that you can cosmetic fix before you publish. So students seem to like stuff like that. So at the same time, while you're teaching, I think it's also necessary to find out what are the tools that will help you. Don't use the same tool all the time. Yeah, try to have a variation of things so that they don't really get bored. Yeah, find something that you're comfortable with. I think that is the most important thing. I refer to Chua Kim Man a lot in this department, and he knows a lot of tools, and I do discuss with him, like, what are the things that work and didn't work, and I do make an effort to try. But there are tools that he introduced to me that I completely, oh my God, I couldn't do this, Kim Man. I keep on telling him that. So find your comfort level. Find what you're comfortable with, because the students will detect if you are not comfortable. So be honest. There's another thing that I also learned from teaching online, and particularly now that you're not physically together with your students. Understand that they also want you to realize that they are facing difficulties. At home is not like in the classroom. They have their siblings, they have their parents, God knows who else is in the house. And it's not like in the classroom where the interaction is just between you and the students. And this is something that I think we need to be a bit more empathic. Yeah, we listen a bit more, and I think we try to gauge, like, where is it that we can push, yeah, and where in which instant that we can pull, yeah, the students into the interactions. So again, interaction is the main thing, but the way that you manage, or the way that you make variations in the way that you interact is very, very important. I hope that's useful. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fitri and Dr. Jessie. So I think we are running short of time now, so we should be heading for lunch break. And then please note that the 2 o'clock session will commence with the framework breakout, which will be on Zoom. Yeah, on Zoom. You can get the link through the email that has been sent to you earlier. And then after the brainwork workout session, and we will come back to this WebEx session to continue on identification and catch. Okay. So with that, thank you to all the presenters again, and also to all the participants who stayed on until now. So we will be back here. Meanwhile, during the whole lunch break, we will be playing videos from ACES, which you can view throughout the whole lunch break. So, okay, thank you.
All right. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the next session, hands-on sessions, and we're gonna test this live on Zoom and see how it will work. Right. So now today we have two main speakers, Fitri Suraya and Chakiman, who will be conducting this workshop. This part of the activities are divided into two. So we'll see if we can squeeze all of you in here in Zoom. But before they start with the hands-on, they will actually introduce to you what gamification is and a brief introduction of the whole thing before we all get in. Right, so enjoy this session, this afternoon session. Make sure you have your coffee, all your keropok at the same time. Stick your face on the PC. See you there. Okay.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jessie. I hope you can hear me. So we meet again for this game design sprint. Before I pass to Dr. Fitri, just a quick bit on what we are going to do today. Basically, you are going to go through a sprint, very short one, in less than about maybe 2 hours, on how to design gamified activities for your classes. So let me just quickly go through a bit of input. Okay, so I'm sure most of you here have heard of the word gamification and game-based learning. There are a lot of arguments about how do you differentiate gamification and game-based learning and all that. But to us, it doesn't really matter, in that sense, as long as you know that you're using game elements or any kind of mechanics related to games in your design of activities. But the bottom line when it comes to gamification in learning is the learning. Don't forget about the learning part, because sometimes we get all the fun, all the enjoyment or the excitement from the game part, but we forgot about the learning part. So they get excited. After that, they go back home. When they came back to the school, the next day, when they come back to the school the next day, they forgot everything. So the learning should be the focus, but at the same time, don't forget to, kind of like link with the outcome that you want to achieve. So the takeaway from this workshop would be we're going to apply the play approach, right, which is done by, kind of like created by Dr. Fitri's team based on the Creative Cultures project before this. And now, it's like another iteration of play approach, kind of improved version, and see how it works in your context. So in this short period of time, you're going to create gamified lessons, which are aligned to curriculum needs for science, math, and English. We're going to try our best to see whether this can be done online, because by right, this should be very hands-on, and you get your hands dirty on all the tools or all the materials available at your disposal. But now we have to do it virtually, so you can make use of all the things that you have, on your table or anywhere you have, and then let's see how it goes. There are more people coming in, so we have to admit. Okay. All right. Okay, quick intro, Dr. Fitri, on creative culture, maybe.
All right. Thank you very much, Kiman and JC. So essentially today, we're trying to be brave actually this session, because we've never done this online. We've done this same workshop many times, but people would actually come to our gamification center at the university. So we hope that you'll be patient with us, and if you have any problems, please let us know, and drop us a message in the text so we can try to address it.
So just to give you a little bit of a background of why we're doing what we're doing is, can you go on to the next? Yeah. Okay. So essentially, we were fortunate to have received an award, a research award from the UK in 2017, and the project was essentially to test out to see if gamification would be an approach that would be useful for Malaysian teachers. So we came up with a gamification blueprint actually from that project. We held 2 gamification seminars, and I got my students, my masters in learning science students, to try many ideas, and then they brought it to schools around Kuching and Kota Samarahan. We went as far as Long Lamai in Baram to test out our ideas. So the idea behind the project was that to test it out, and then to see if there's a way for us to come up with a guideline to help other people to design games for learning. So, and yeah, so our context was essentially to use the indigenous values that we have in Sarawak, and then to make sure that we don't talk in a strange language in some sense, and we would like to connect that with whatever that is available within a community. And we were particularly interested in groups that are living really off-grid, who are not in the urban areas, because we know that the urban areas are already supplemented with materials and resources. So how did we capture data for this research? We developed a cultural protocol. This was essential for us, for the group to understand how to translate theoretical frameworks to local indigenous groups. And we also figured out how to deal with school bureaucracy. These are things that we were just learning, and although schools is part of the education system, sometimes it's a bit difficult for people like us coming from the university to come in and introduce new things. So by way of developing the cultural protocol, we were able to also engage local schools. And we try as much as possible to address the needs of the national curriculum, particularly the education blueprint. And we were very much interested in looking at STEM subjects, and then I think we paid most of our attention to science and mathematics particularly, and we also had games to teach English as well. So the nature of the games that we created are through a continuous dialogue between us and the communities. So we do not build things at random. If we introduce say Monopoly, if the community doesn't play Monopoly or did not know what Monopoly is, then it defeats the purpose. So what we did was we tried to do a little bit of a homework. We tried to find out what are the games that community will be playing. So through that process, we were able to identify the mechanics, the game mechanics that we would then select to see which ones would fit the content that we are trying to teach. So it's very much an indigenized version of designing games, learning games. So we got ambassadors throughout our projects. We also came up with an online hub. You can go to mycapsule.my. Now we actually transferred all these things to creativeculture.my. That's our new website. In the map that you see, these are the areas that we have been going to. We have gone to, I think, more than 10 schools, I think. Yeah, more than 10 schools. So and at the end of that, we were able to actually talk to the university management to give us a a full-fledged gamification center, which is what it is right now. So I think there's no other universities at this point which has a dedicated center just for gamification. So this is the theoretical sort of approach to how we do things. So three main things. We look at the content, we look at what are the issues that people have with teaching the content, what are the dimensions for learning that need to be addressed, yeah, in that content itself. And then we go to gameplay, because gameplay talks about the game mechanics, about how we choose the suitable or relevant strategies in order to get people to on board to play the game, and to actually go through that experience of playing, and then after that the reflections or the evaluation of that experience at the end. So through that we created a series of rubrics, yeah, to understand how playful, how useful was the play, yeah, in the learning games that was created. And the last bit is actually the prototyping. This is where the fun actually begins, because we match what is in the content and what we believe to be suitable from the game itself. So that means evaluating all the game mechanics and to see whether it fits or not. So from the prototyping, we try to mix and match and see how things work as one unit. So that's how we essentially contextualize game design. So we came up with this. This came up from conversations with my master students actually in learning science. Both of us are teaching learning science in UNIMAS, and we thought, what would be a good way to help people who may not have experience building games at all, yeah, in the class. So we thought, can we synthesize the ideas that we have and to put it all in one canvas that people would see and go through the steps, and that they will eventually come up with some kind of an outcome, yeah, through the process. So we picked the word play, which essentially relates to gamification, and it derives from pick, look, activate, and yield, which is if those of you who know instructional design, this is almost the ADDIE steps, yeah, where you choose things, you select, you find out which are the things which is relevant, and then you develop it, and then you try it out, and then you would evaluate at the end. So we go through needs analysis, we design, we develop, we implement, and also we assess. So that's the similar steps that we took, but ours is a bit more indigenized, I would say. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So are you guys ready? I hope you have a pen and paper with you. We are going to ask you to do several things. So you're going to be working with other people who are in this room as well. We're going to put you guys in a breakout room, and you will discuss a game idea, and we will give you some time. We'll give you about half an hour maybe. Yeah, we'll come back at 3:30. Yeah, 3:30. And then you will show us a slide deck, yeah, a slideshow of your ideas. Nothing too long, nothing too fancy. We are looking at about 6 slides maximum for a 3-minute presentation. So we will, you would know who you're pairing up with. So so that's the fun part, I think, in this, that you're going to be talking with people that you're just meeting today. So what is it that you're going to do? So let us explain.
All right. The first thing that you need to do now is to start with the peak part. All right, peak, which is the actually it's empathy or empathize, where you, before you even start to pick a learning problem, you can list down as many learning problem as you want first. meaning through your group discussion or your discussion with your partner later on, you just list as many learning problems as you want, and then from there you kind of narrow it down to one most critical one, right, that you think can be addressed using the gamification approach. So you can choose a topic that you teach or familiar with, or you can even describe a teaching constraint that you're facing to teach a group of students. You can narrow down the context a bit. Then you also have to specify the group of learners. This is like what we are doing in needs analysis, where we have to target a specific group of people, because if you don't do that, then your game will be all over the place. It's like maybe only one or two students can appreciate it, but the rest cannot. So you try to zoom into a specific group of learners that you would like to focus on. Then you can pick a game you like. For example, if you are familiar with Monopoly, you can list down the mechanics, how to play it. Or if you have traditional games, like Batu Seremban, whatever games that you have in mind, you can list it down first. And then from there, later on, when you move on to stage 2, we're going to make use of all your information in this stage and kind of like formulate a game out of this, right? We are doing a bit of what we call as remixing existing things. You have Snake and Ladder, you have whatever game you have, and then we try to mix it so that it becomes something new to you, right? So there's another one. So for the next one, L, look, means based on what you have picked just now, then now you have to look at ideas. Look for ideas that can be used to make a more meaningful or maybe more engaging kind of games that you can deal with either addressing the learning problem or the target learners. So you can focus on whichever aspect that you like, but most importantly, you have to remember that you can't address all the problems. You still have to be really focused on one that, the most critical one that you want to address. Then from here, this is where you start to plan your game. This is like the design stage where you list out, the flow, the game plan, and whatever you would like to put into your game, and what are the learning mechanics that you would like to, match with. Okay, so this one.
Yeah. I know it's a bit busy, but bear with me. I think most of you are familiar with the triangle in the middle, Bloom's taxonomy, and this is the revised version of the Bloom's taxonomy. There's already people who are working to categorize and classify what works at what level of the Bloom's taxonomy for developing games. So let's not try to invent the wheel. Use what is already there and pick and choose the ones that you feel would be suitable for you. Say, for instance, you want to gauge the apply level, the third level in the Bloom's taxonomy, and that you want some kind of a cooperation that happens in the learning. So I'm taking the green one, the one in the middle, for cooperation, and in the game mechanics, which is on your right, you probably want to have competition. They cooperate, but at the same time, there is elements of competition that will happen. In that game. So how would you put this together? So when you are creating or designing your learning game, I'll show you an example. If you can see this, this is Alleyway. It's a very basic, what do you call it? Paper-based game. It's just numbers. Oh, I see. Oh, sorry. It's just numbers, really. But the way that you... okay, all right, there you go. Now, this, as I said, is a very basic board that you can use, you can recreate, you can redraw this. But the idea is that you move from number 1 up to the end, which is number 25. You can have different numbers as well. So say if you're teaching mathematics, yeah, and you want to do the application level of lesson, yeah, what are the things that you're trying to teach? Say you're teaching multiplication, yeah, the multiplication table, specifically 7, 8, 9. So you can ask them, because one of the items that you wanted to introduce in the lesson was they must cooperate, yeah, with each other. So that is an instructional strategy that you've chosen. So when they do this board, we can have like pawns, yeah, buah, and then they can share the pawns, yeah, maybe 3 persons using one pawn, and then or the same types of the pawn. They can use different types of dice. For instance, there are dices that what do you call it, would have only nombor-nombor genap, yeah, only odd numbers, only even numbers. So you can use that as well. So where is the element of what do you call it, competition? They must find a way that when they move on the board, they will the first one to reach number 25 will be the winner. So how do they do that? Maybe the gameplay would include a deck of cards where you would have all the multiplication problems where they need to discuss in order to progress to the next step. So even if they throw the dice would show them to which deck of cards that they need to pick up. And from, if they got the answer correct, then they can move to the steps in the in the game. So that is one really simple example of how you can use multiplication as your content, and you've already identified what learning mechanic that you would like to try, and then how you would use a game mechanic to enhance the learning of that multiplication table. So it's not just about 8 times 8 is 64. You can orchestrate the slide the cards using whatever you want. Like for instance, I'll show you some cards that we have built. This is for the teaching of language, stories, yeah. So it's called What's My Story, yeah. And this actually originate from the UK. They came up with a set of cards. So the rule to how to play is actually here on the what it cover itself. Yeah, this is the rule of the play. You just have to choose 3 different sets of cards, and then using the 3 different sets of cards, you will come up with a story. So this is actually a very nice small little way to trigger conversations in the classroom. So all of it is color coded, yeah, color coded, so it's easy for students to see. So say if they want to use one category, they know already that this category is different from this one, and then all the cards would bear different pictures. Yeah, so by picking the different pictures, they would be able to talk about different things. Yeah, and from that idea, our team came up with another set which is more localized to Sarawak. So like for instance, I'll show you, I'll pick out the word context and activity and person. Okay. Now 3 things: people, context, and activity. What story can you create from these 3 cards? Yeah. So this would be a nice trigger to get people talking, to get your students actually talking in the class. And obviously you can innovate this, you know, you can make this your own, make it local to your own context. And I think students would appreciate that. You can even ask the students to what do you call it, come up with their own cards and put it all together as a product for your class. So this would be like sort of like the main what do you call it, point in which you will try to strategize the game that you will build for a content that you will choose. So the third part is actually the prototyping. I'm not too sure if you have time to do prototyping, but we want you to you know, brainstorm yeah, with the people you're going to be sitting with in your breakout rooms, and then you'll come back to us at 3:30, and then we'll see how your ideas pan out. So remember, it's 6 slides and 3 minutes. We'll give you 3 minutes, and then we will give you feedback. So we'll come back, and then we'll re-adjourn, and then we'll talk about the ideas that you've come up with within the time. Is that all right with everyone? Does anyone have any questions before we break out? If everyone's all right, we'll start, putting you into breakout rooms.
Okay, okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Learning is not there, pada diorang pun is just playing. So, why board game? Because somehow it encourages communication between the players, the students, and also it promotes negotiation skills and also turn taking. So more or less, they will learn how to give and take. They will, respect others' turn when they are supposed to roll the dice and when they are supposed to give their answer and to bid for session to answer the questions. Board game also indirectly promotes and engage in collaborative learning because we can pair students and group students to represent one pawn. So, they actually take charge of their learning. So, and it's also a risk taker. They are also a risk taker when they want to give their answer. They have to be very, very careful so that whatever answer is given is supposed to be awarded with points, with marks, not points or marks being taken away. Okay, so basically, the board game that we are thinking about is adoption from my previous board game that I've created back in 2013. It's actually the word game where I actually plan to teach vocabulary because I'm teaching English. So to me, when you have no vocabulary, you cannot talk, you cannot comprehend, you name it. So it goes for any other languages, let it Arabic, Japanese, any language. So when you don't have the words, you cannot talk, you cannot think. You can think, but you cannot convey your messages. Okay, so if you look at our board game is more or less like this. We will have the start point, then we will have the finish point. Okay, and there are decks actually to be played on to the players. So Hanis, can I have this next slide? Okay, so this is how it's being played. So we have one chemist, since we are talking science and English. So the banker, so-called auditor, is our chemist and is actually the teacher. Okay, the players is the students. Okay, students can be group, or if you have sets of board games, they can play on their own. And the proficient student for that particular subject, they can probably be the chemist, because we know in class there will be students who are very excellent for certain subjects, and probably is actually empowering them, towards other students, and probably other students can look up to them. So this is how it's played. It's a very conventional way where you have dices and pawns, and we have decks that represent categories. So for our board game, for that half an hour of discussion, we plan to have Spell Me. This is the category for the board game where words will be given, science-based words. For example, the sodium what, Miss Lisa? The word
Chloride.
Sodium
chloride.
Sodium chloride. So probably those are the words that they have to spell in problem solving. What we do is we give facts, or we give scenarios that students have to give answer to. Sorry, problem solving is mathematics. It's all about calculation. There are calculations to be done in science, so those are to represent problem solving. Facts is when we give facts and they have to guess what is that facts is describing about. And draw me is for the student to sketch and draw the look of certain substance, for example, the neurons and the protons of certain, certain substance in science. I'm not so very good in science, I'm sorry. So the first player to reach the finish space is the winner. And how do we play this is that they will roll dices. Okay, so they will stop at individual spaces. So as mentioned, we have this spell me, problem solving, and facts. To make this board game a little bit more livelier and more engaging for the kids, we have the deeds cards, where in deeds cards, it's taken from the deck, and when they land on this particular space that says deeds, on the deed card it will say, for example, you skip your science class, pay me 2 kilojoules. Oh, in this game we play by kilojoules. We have money in Monopoly, we have points inside some other games. So in this particular game, we have kilojoules. So if let's say you've been upgraded to the good chemist, for example, so you are awarded 5 kilojoules. So the chemist will give points to that particular player or the particular group. Other than that, we have these star card spaces, star spaces, where when they landed on that particular space, they will be awarded with star card. And at the back of the star card, there's actually the value of kilojoules. So this is actually added to the points that they have collected throughout the game. So even though sometimes the first player to first reach the finish game is the winner, but there's always a possibility who is still playing the game can be the winner, because we are based on the points scored. And what is we have suggested and we plan to have is that the bidding section. So for example, if this player 1 is playing and he or she or this group of players fail to answer the question to provide the correct answer, we will open it to the other players by bidding. So the highest bidder will have the opportunity to to answer. So if they get it right, the chemist will double the points. Let's say they bid 5 kilojoules, they'll be getting another 5 kilojoules, and they answered it, they provided the wrong answer, so we'll take away that amount, the kilojoule that being bid. And that's it. So, but we have not come up with our board game name because so basically it's a board game.
Yes. All right. It's a very good idea, Zuliana, and I'm actually amazed that you have your own board game already. The rules that you've described to us, these are the ones that you have brainstormed with your team, yeah?
Yeah.
The KJ cards, the deed cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is for primary 6, primary 5, primary 6.
Primary 6 will best be playing this game because if you were to offer to standard 4, probably the question that is being prepared, they can't answer it. And probably we can use this as a supplementary material in class before they sit for the UPSR,
Right.
you know, because it covers all the science topic up from standard 4 up to standard 6. And this actually can be, you know, adopted to any other subjects. It's all based on that teacher's creativity.
Yeah. Just maybe some ideas to expand it a little bit is to probably give a scenario whereby they have to solve a case or a specific problem. The scenario can be designed from things that they are familiar with in the school, you know, and you can include these items into the game itself.
Yeah, sure.
So that would I guess initiate the ones that are probably a little too shy to share their ideas, but they see familiar things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they would be able to build upon what their friends would be talking about. So that is one way to perhaps get people going in the game, because kadang-kadang the onboarding tu ambil masa kan. The onboarding towards the game tu ambil masa sikit. Kadang-kadang yang pandai memang dia akan automatically tahu apa nak buat.
Betul.
Tapi if you're getting like the rest of the class, mungkin dia perlukan sesuatu yang mungkin familiar in their environment. So these are the things that you can consider lah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Group 1.
All right. Thank you, guys. Well done. Can we have group 2, please? Aliza, Dinelda, Halija, Jonathan, and Josh Shabel. And Nazi.
I'm going to share my screen, yeah? Alisa here.
Yeah, silakan.
All right. Hi everyone, I'm Aliza and I'll be representing Breakout Group 2. So what we've came up with is the game called Digits the Book. All right, so looking at stage 1 where we had to empathize, so the subject that we chose is mathematics, which would target year 1 primary students, but also it could go for remedial students as well who has not reached their level yet. So the learning objectives, basically it's to be students to be able to add 2 single digits, as well as to be able to create operations using addition with 2 single digits. They would have needed a prior knowledge of symbol and number representation, as well as addition computation. Okay. So what we are looking at here is assessment. So looking at the Bloom's taxonomy, it would be at the apply stage. So we would like to assess the students, meaning they've already had known how to add. And this would contribute to action points, meaning more rewards, and getting points for the answers that they answer. And also it involves collaborative and cooperative strategies. So our inspiration is this language game, which is Taboo. If you know the game, then I think the flow will be easier to understand. If you don't, it's all right. I will guide you through. So the inspiration is basically this Taboo game. And the game pack for this Taboo game will be a deck of cards, an hourglass of 20 seconds. And if you don't have an hourglass, you can use a clock or a timer, and a huge board layout and pawns. So how do we play this game? It could be in groups of 4, and each group is assigned to a cartoon figure. So this relates something to something that they like, and that will be associated to their pawn. So another way it could be played is like in a group of 4, and each of them get different pawns. So it depends on the size of the class and the need of the teacher. For each round, one player steps to the front to pick a card, and the player is required to state an addition operation based on the number, and the group members will have to add it up and shout out the answer. I will show you an example in a while. And if the answer is correct, their pawn is moved forward. And if the answer is wrong, they would remain in the same box. And the first group to reach the end is the winner. And as I mentioned just now, if you are doing it like in a group of 4, it could be altered to who reaches the end first will be the winner. So this is how the deck of cards would look like. So you have a number, and also you have symbol representation. So here I have 6 different footballs. And below that I have one question, which is 0 plus 6. So the player has to think of an addition computation that equals to 6. But they cannot use the one given on the card. So they cannot say 0 plus 6. So they have to think of another way of getting 6. So for example, would be 3 plus 3 or 4 plus 2. So the player states the question and their team members would answer them. So here we cater to differentiated learning. So some students may not be able to figure out what is 6. So the picture actually helps them. And 0 plus 6 is actually a clue to them of what they're going to say. And if you want to make this more challenging, perhaps they could use a story or real life applications to solve the game. So for example, Alice gets the number 8. So she knows 5 plus 3 is 8. So she tells this story where she has 5 sweets and Matt gives her 3 more sweets. So the question that she asked is like, how many sweets do I have now? So that would be to evaluate a more hot thinking. Yeah. So that's all from our group.
Oh, thank you, Aliza.
Yeah.
That's
Welcome.
brilliant. Very straightforward. And you know, I think any class can use this, particularly if you are trying to strengthen what do you call it, practice dalam class. And I like the fact that you have also a scenario that accompanies it. I have two young kids at home, and whenever they do things you know, at work, they always ask me like, what's the point of doing this? So we now have learners, we have students who are you know, they want to know why, you know, why should I add this number with this number, you know, and when it comes with a maybe a little story that goes with it, for them to just make sense of why they're actually doing the addition, it does, I think, help, because again, remember what I talked about in deep learning. It's about making those connections obvious for the students. That is where we are helping them not just learn the surface of, you know, additions, but rather why is this important to know. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think this is a very good start, and I think you can come up with you know, different scenarios in which they can actually feel you know, if somebody takes away things from them, katakanlah, you know, besides just addition, you boleh buat subtraction as well.
Yes, yes.
So you know, I think the the opportunity is endless lah. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Aliza.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Well done. I wish you guys are here, then we can do something, makan chocolate or something. But yeah. Break room 3, please. Group 3. Are you guys ready? We have Farah, Monica, Sivagami, and Wong. Silakan. Group 3. Hanafia, Cikgu Hanafia.
Monica bukan dalam group lah. Nobody inside.
Tak ada.
No? Anyone from group 3?
Tak ada kot. Ni suggestion for online teaching. Okay, sekejap lagi I'll answer that sekejap lagi.
We go for group 5.
Yeah, let's go for group 5 dulu. Group 5, Aini, Hawa Nasir, Muhammad Noor Tahir, and Ruzana.
Keep on having gone already.
Ada?
Okay.
Alright. Silakan.
Alright. Okay.
Hi, sorry. So we're from breakout room 5. And after sitting on it for a while, we came up with a game. This game can be applied in various subjects and various levels, very adaptable. And all you need is a bag of M&Ms. So this is the M&Ms game. Hang on, yeah, okay. So this game is inspired by Russian roulette or the game of chance for anyone who is familiar with it, combined with the sweetness of M&Ms, because who doesn't like chocolate, comes the M&Ms game. And for this specific purpose, we chose to apply this in English for primary. But as I said earlier, the game is highly adaptable and it can also be a great icebreaker. So our target learners are primary students, age ranging from 7 to 12 years old, with low to intermediate proficiency levels. And the objective of this lesson is to be able to construct grammatical sentence using target vocabulary. Oopsie. Okay, so to play this game, teacher will initiate by listing the target vocabulary and assigning each word to an M&M color. Students would come to the front and pick an M&M and later form a sentence using the vocab that corresponds to the color they picked. For example, if you pick a red, you'll have to construct a sentence using the word achieve. And if you pick a blue, you'll have to construct a sentence using the word controversy. Or as I said, this game is very adaptable, so you can use in any context you want. To level up, to give it a little bit more challenge, you can use different colors. You can use different color and tell them that it carries different points according to the difficulty of the words. For example, blue and red carries 1 point, green and yellow carries 2 points, and brown carries 3 points. In this case, the scoring is a bit different and it is a bit complicated. But essentially, in this game, everyone is a winner, as in you can eat or keep the M&M you picked. But if you're able to construct a grammatical sentence, you rock. And definitely a bonus from the teacher would be an extra reward. Okay, I think that's all.
All right.
Say something?
All right, thanks for sharing. Hawa, right? Okay. Very straightforward one, I think, because reward and the points and everything. Maybe can consider labeling the colors by category. Because grammatical sentences can be a lot. Like maybe yellow could be nouns or something. Different categories of focus, so that they kind of know what kind of colors to choose, instead of just randomly picking M&M's colors and all that. But very straightforward. But in terms of to make it hot, you can consider all the suggestions just now, which is to make it more meaningful by adding some kind of like story behind it.
Yeah.
Not just not just getting the M&M. Right? Okay.
I've seen one facilitator who had M&Ms. She was trying to do a ice breaking with the M&Ms, and she brought it to the seminar room, just before the workshop, and then she was putting it onto the table, and then trying to arrange and coordinate the warm up. But chocolates being chocolate, all the participants actually went for the packets and then started eating, and then they went her whole activity down the drain because there was no chocolate left. So these are some of the things that I guess we have to think ahead of time. Like kadang-kadang it's nice, it's fun, tapi what if? You know what I mean? Sebab kadang-kadang yelah, the enticement of having chocolate, dah lah M&M lagi lah, senang je nak
the M&M to fish the attention of the students, so they know I'm gonna get an M&M, so I'm gonna come forward and maybe try using this word in a sentence.
Yeah. And you can also, because you mentioned low to intermediate punya level. I'm thinking, because I know there's a lot of kids who are a bit shy and passive in terms of using, trying to learn English. And perhaps what could be done, macam what Himan said, all one color could represent noun, but start the noun with BM. A BM word, and then get them to translate. When they get the translation of that BM word, you give them 2 pieces of that color. You know what I mean? So that is in a way still on rewards, but they have sort of like move forward, and then you are acknowledging that moving forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's one way to expand it. All right, thank you so much, Hawa. Well done. Can we get yeah, let's go to break room. The group 3. We missed you just now. I think they have the slide here. Shall we share your slide? Because I think we got the link here.
Be able to share. Farah. Farah is going to present.
Is Farah presenting?
Who is presenting?
Yes, I'm presenting. Hi. All right. Or maybe I should share my screen. Wait.
Wait. You want to share? Okay.
We have it here if you want us to share.
Oh, that would be better. Thank you.
1 second, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi everyone. We are from Breakout Room 3. So maybe the next slide. Okay, so we're focusing on a learning problem, which is we found out there were two people from our team who is an English teacher. So we tried to focus on our students' difficulties in mastering grammar and vocabulary for English subject. Okay, next. Okay, so our focus group of learners is primary school student level 2, year 4, 5, and 6. Next. Okay, so the inspiration of the game that we have created is a combination of various games. So board game, prominently Monopoly and Snake and Ladder, and then card game, as well as digital game apps. So we were hoping to turn this game into a digital game, into an app, but even if it's not turned into an application, it would still be a very adaptable game that could facilitate language learning. So the number of players will be 4 players per game, and the duration should be 20 minutes per game, per round. Yeah. Okay, next. Thank you. Okay, so to explain further about what this game is all about, the app resembles quizzes. If we were to turn this into an app, and it aims to tackle subject-verb agreement problems, because it's a very prominent issue in especially for English. So we were trying to find a method to tackle this problem. So during the practice, they will be playing the game, and then during production, they could collaborate and compete with friends. Okay, next. Oh, so this is sort of like an inspiration board of how the game will look like. Maybe we can just proceed to the rules next. Okay, so how the game will be conducted. Okay, of course, the students will have to roll a dice, and then there will be color-coded cards in the middle of the board game. So red, depending on the difficulty, so red will be the easiest one, 10 points for that. Green, the intermediate level, 20 points for that. And then yellow, you will get 30 points. So within those cards, there will be either a stimulus or a question or a fill in the blank questions, whereby students will have to create sentences. And then there will be questions that focus on pronouns, verbs, as well as adjectives. So how will they win, right? They will get points if they answer the question correctly, so they will be able to move forward. But if they are unable to create a sentences based on the cards they picked, they will have to move 2 steps backwards. So after 20 minutes, the players with the highest mark will be the winner. So that's how to play and how to win. I think that's all. Yeah, that's all from our team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Farah, for sharing. I think the board game idea is kind of interesting because the kids usually love board games. The the sentence construction part, right? The subject verb agreement part, the app part, meaning can you do away with the app or you need the app? Just want to clarify on that. Because you mentioned about the app, right?
Yeah, but we were planning to create an app, but without the app, it's still okay. I mean, the board game as it is also it was fine.
Just that you might want to think about how to help the weaker ones, because they might not continue playing after they realize that they lose out on maybe four or six steps behind. Then they just gave up, and the game will not be interesting when the competition is like biased to certain group of learners. So you might want to have maybe a help, or like they can get hints, or some we call that safety net. If they couldn't go forward, there's some mechanism for them to get help, and then they either use the whatever points they have and all that kind of thing. So something for you to consider, because board game usually, if you play it once and you realize that you can't really move forward a lot, then you won't play the game anymore. It's like a one-off thing. Right?
I think subject verb agreement is one of those things that's it's very difficult to teach. And I see this problem even at the university when we teach our students here. How do you make it? How do you help people to make sense of subject verb agreement? That's one thing that I would like for you to think about. I think the game serves as what it is intended to, but I think for people to understand it in the way that why is it necessary to have subject verb agreement, done correctly. I think that's where the gap is in terms of how an English teacher understands it and how kids learn English, because subject verb agreement is not really something that is replicable in bahasa. It's different, it's a completely concept. Jadi why you put S, why you put ES, why you put all these things. Jadi I think kan kalau macam you boleh gabungkan with another subject, like for instance science, you teach them science content, but at the same time they're actually using the language. You know so you can cooperate dengan kawan-kawan yang bekerja, yang teach science, so they have a context to talk about it. That kalau language ni on its own saja, macam how you were trained as an English teacher, I think it would not really make sense for kids, sebab dia tak nampak macam cakap the why should I know this rule? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So just a suggestion, kalau if you have the time, maybe I think it's nice to maybe brainstorm dengan those teaching science, and you kill two birds with one stone. They get to learn the science content, but at the same time they're actually using what you're teaching in English class to make sense of what the content in science.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. We'll try to add it to the games later. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you, Farah. I think we have one more group, yeah?
Let's go.
Yeah.
6.
All right, group 6. Dancy, Gus.
Can we name the group?
Kofong, Munira, and Zara. Anyone? Anyone presenting for the last group, for the group 6? Dr. JC is also in there.
Sorry.
Are they discussing? Anyone from group 6?
Anyone from group 6?
These strangely.
Okay, I'll present then. No worries. 1 second.
No worries.
Yep, I think it should be all good now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, for from group 6 and sorry, just give me 1 second. The chat is blocking my view. I'm not sure how to, but okay, it's okay. I have to go through with it then. Okay, so basically we're group 6, and for our group, based on the play section, the problem section, we 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 plan to touch on English for primary school kids, maybe for year 2 or year 3, and our learning objectives will focus more on the grammar, particularly for I am, was, were, something along that line. And as for the activities, what we plan to play is something we call fill in the blank. So this is more of a like hands-on and also not really physical, but we have students to be divided into groups. It can depend on how many participants are there. So we let them to take turns holding an am, is, was, were card. And with that card, we have like fill in the blank. So we have like a sentences ready, but not the full sentences ready on a whiteboard. So they will stand on a same starting point, and they will so basically we'll count to 3 or something like that, and have them race to fill in the right blank. So just like, so this is an example. So like twinkle twinkle the star, how I wonder what you are. So yeah, that's how it basically works. And how to win, basically, you have the one who's the fastest and the one with the most correct answer for the team that has that's fastest and has the most correct answers to win. And at the end of the game, we'll have the winning team to have been given the rewards. So I think that basically sums up the game. And yeah, feel free to ask any questions. All good.
Sorry, Munira.
Yes.
Munira,
We were kicked out just now.
we were
really?
disconnected.
So sorry.
Wait, so what happened? Okay, give me 1 second.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Wait,
Uh,
so where did I stop?
we didn't actually listen to any of your presentation.
Can you
Oh,
stop?
really?
Yeah, from the first-
Okay.
Terribly sorry.
No worries. But is my screen sharing right now or no?
Yes, it is.
Okay, but can everyone listen to me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Let me start again. So yeah. So we're from group 6. Hello again, everyone. Sorry for the technical issues, but let's move on and talk about the problem station. So what our teams would like to focus on or approach is the English subject, and we would like to focus more on the primary school students, especially the younger ones like standard 2 or standard 3, and have this game focus on grammar, especially something quite easy, but also something that we as adults sometimes get confused to, like am, is, was, and were. So how the game works is basically like fill in the blank. So I hope everyone can see the screen. And oh, sorry, I forgot to put it in full screen. But yeah, so it's a fill in the blank, and we have the students divided into 2 main groups. And I think it depends on the class of size. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 5 participants. And so we have the student take turns to hold the am, is, was, were card, and have the sentences, like not the full sentences, ready at the whiteboard. So they will be divided into teams, and will take turns to fill in the blank. So just like this. So twinkle twinkle little star, how I wonder what you are. So yeah, they will take turns to race from the starting point, from the same starting points, and fill in the blank. So basically, that's how the game works, and how to win is also quite straightforward. And the one who has the most points and the fastest has the most points, that is the correct answer, wins, and the winning team have been giving the rewards. So I think that's all from our team. Yep, feel free to ask any questions. So yes.
Right. We couldn't see your slides, but it's all right. We
Oh,
got what
really?
you said.
Okay. I'm
That's
not
all right.
sure. Sorry.
Now we can see. Now we can see.
Now we can see it.
Okay.
Okay, you
I'm
don't-
not sure why. So yeah, basically that.
Now we
if
can't.
if anyone gets the idea, I think that'll be fine.
Yeah. This is okay.
Yep.
I think you can go a bit more physical with the younger group. Like for instance, you can get them to actually role play. You know, they can act as the verbs. You know, the is, are, was, were. You know, and their friends can actually, you know, string a sentence, and you can ask them to, you know, talk about something that is present, and then after that change it to past, so they can see how, you know, the sentence actually has to change. The verb has got to change from is to was. You know, and you can put them in a costume, you know, and they would probably wear, like, you know, like something on their head or on their chest to say that they represent is or represent are. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, some sort of role play, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. That sounds like
Because
a
the
good
younger
idea.
kids would like that. I think they appreciate that. It's a bit more physical, and I think that would be something memorable. The learning experience would be memorable.
Yep. I think that's a really good feedback. Maybe we should work on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Iman, you want to say anything?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Very good ideas, and as you can see, you know, the more feedback that you get, talk to each other. Now that you know each other, you know, from random people signing up for this workshop, now you know each other, and I think, you know, keep the conversations going, because at the end of the day, when we want to talk about you know, making your teaching relevant for 21st century, we have to remember two things. Why is it that students lack interest in the things that they are you know, exposed to in class, and what is it that hinders them from understanding the content? So again, go back to these things. It's, you know, using games or using gamification as a way to approach learning. It should not be just promising the fun or the play part, but rather, you know, it goes back to whether this will reinforce the way that they understand something. Um, if you want to get students to be more engaged, more motivated, improve on the way that you talk to your students, improve your communication skills, improve your diction about the content that you're teaching. Yeah, no matter if you're teaching in primary school, secondary school, or at the university, diction again is very important, because that tells people whether, you know, the how much you understand the content knowledge. So the content knowledge should be key, because that is the driver in which any kind of subject that you're teaching will be understood effectively by your learners. And listening is a very strong but always forgotten. Yeah, listen to your kids. Sometimes, like what we said in the feedback, you know, there are groups of children. Those of you who are teaching in primary school, there are groups of children who may not want to participate because they feel that they are not good enough, or they are shy, they are passive. You know, they don't know where to start. Yeah, so listen to them. You know, the way that you maybe ask them questions may have to be a little bit different from the rest of the class, who may be able to catch on a bit faster. Yeah, so use different ways. So that's why I always tell my students that whenever you come and teach, you must have a bag of tricks, and this bag of tricks is your teaching tricks. Yeah, the way that you want to get your students to be involved, yeah, in your classroom interactions, and you have to always improve your bag of tricks. You cannot be teaching the same way as how you did 10 years ago, katakanlah, yeah. So always try to find other things, not just the tools but also the way you want to use the tools. So even if you move towards digital learning, the same principle. It goes back again to the content that you're teaching. How effective would it be if you're using the tool that you have chosen? So these are the, I think, decision making that you need to have when you want to deliver effective instruction. All right. So I think we'll stop here, and I think Dr. JC wants to say goodbye and close the session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. It's been a real pleasure. I hope you will continue and chat with us. I think you have our creativeculture.my website. All the slides that we've presented today is there. So yeah, and we have also lots of things that we would like to share as well through the project. And as we build things from the project, we would like you to participate as well. So yeah.
I shall keep this short and sweet, just in case you're all exhausted from all the sessions. Yeah, so what have I'm just going to summarize what we have gone through from the morning sessions as well as this afternoon sessions. The slide will be made available on the website as well, not Facebook, but on the website. You can follow us at www.creativeculture.my. Right, I'll type it in the group chat in a bit. So just a quick one. All right, so this is what we have covered. All right, I can't seem to find my mouse. I need to move this so I can see all the group chat. All right, so these are the things that we've covered since this morning. So I hope you have gathered what STEM plus education is. So it's not just the discipline of STEM, not just about the arts, the science, chemistry, and physics, but how are you going to have everything all together, even art in STEM? How can we use colors and painting and putting math into it? Of course, there are many ways. So we give an examples like, when kids play Jongkak, for example. So what is the mathematics behind Jongkak? For those who actually studied advanced mathematics, then there is a Fibonacci theory in Jongkak, right? So, and then we also talk about social innovation, how we should actually involve society, finding the needs of the people, finding the needs of your fellow peers, finding the needs of the students, finding the needs of the management, and how can we innovate solutions, right? And by incorporating STEM plus education. Of course, in the end of the day, we always talk about HOT, higher order thinking, Part 21. And how are we going to move STEM plus education into that direction? And what is it with 21st century learning? It's about building the skills, the new sets of skills. It's not actually a new set of skills. It's an old set of skills that even our parents had, even our foreparents had. A skill of communicating, a skill of empathy. So these are the things that are perhaps has lost along the way. So we're just having to retract and remind ourselves we need to pass down these sort of skills, the skills of problem solving instead of shoving, how, I remember when I went to school, we go to tuition, so basically the teacher just shove all the knowledge and solutions into your brain, and after you finish everything, you just vomit it out. But we see what we can do further from that, right? And we also look at the trends and technologies. I think there is a question about earlier on online games. So there are a lot of existing online games that are available. Given the pandemic, I mean, I play strategy board games, and these games are now available online. And even you can use Zoom, simple game. I know earlier days during the MCO, friends were bored and we don't know what to do. So we created our own pictorial games using Zoom, and try to guess with one another. So I think you can actually, instead of coming up with new games, you can use existing games and try to incorporate it into teaching and learning, even activities with your fellow peers. And then the pedagogy of strategies for deep learning was also being introduced. There are a lot of pedagogical strategies. So this is not the first and the last sort of workshop or even talk. There will be more to come. And our educators, Dr. Fitri, Joaquiman, and also the rest of the team would share some of the pedagogical studies, okay, that can be used and implement. You can also share it with your fellow peers. And yes, you can create games using Padlet. Yes, excellent. And today, this afternoon, you've gone through game design thinking. That is also another strategy. So how do you come up with games? How do you come up with perhaps not just game, even solutions? You can actually use design thinking approach. Okay, same sort of processes, just different sort of problems. Games is used because games is a universal language, one with different ways perhaps will speak different language, or one with different linguistic will presents the expression differently. But however, games are common somehow, that one looks at games, the mechanic, everybody knows reward. So there is a common universal language. Therefore, games is being introduced. Okay, so from here, I just want to end, but before I end, I just want to introduce to you the future of STEM Plus education. So you will not be the first to listen to this, or maybe you have seen this. What is the future in STEM Plus education? So you're lucky to follow this through, and you have learned as well that we have talked about how we can engage with communities. So more of this sort of workshop will be done. So not only for teachers, in the future we'll be calling communities together with teachers, students together with teachers. So it's no longer being different groups. So I understand even in this group there are also students. So we want to hear, and everybody should be listening to all the different groups of people. And then also we want to ensure that you try to include intentional play and risk. Okay, these are activities that can be included. You have done with the play, the fun sort of games element into the coming up with teaching content. So allow play and risk. Many times one would use playful, but one would not use the negative word risk. But again, if you were here earlier during my introduction, I was talking about getting students to learn their failures. So risk is also good. Risk also makes you excited. The kiasuness will come out. So allow that to embed and reignite. I think every single human would want to take risk, and with doing so, that would also build a resilient community. And then interdisciplinary. So we have our team in UNIMAS. I'm sure in a lot of universities in Malaysia, if you're closer to other universities, you can also work with them. But with ACES, we have an interdisciplinary team. So we not only look at education, in terms of content, pedagogy, but we also work with computer science, data analytics. We work with marine biologists that looks at water, coral reefs. How can we help? How can we give back to nature? What are the problems that are faced? What's wrong? What's with the coral reef bleaching? What does it mean? How can we innovate? Can we come up with solutions? Can we get our students? Can we get students to go on the ground and actually learn and be part of the community? To not just get scientists in to check on the water or the bleaching of the coral, but can any one of us, when we go to the beach, can we actually do it? So this is where interdisciplinary approach can come in if we allow it to happen. And with that, grand challenges, with that, all the competitions that are available, should be participated in all school. I think your principals, your headmasters should allow this. So perhaps parents do not stop your kids to join all this competition, because there are a lot of things that they will learn, not just one small content, but how can they integrate all the different contents together. All right, and that leads to, of course, innovation and accessibility measures. If one do not have or less access to the internet, for example, or not enough computers, intermittent electricity, like what just happened 10 minutes ago, where we had a bit of a surge and the whole internet just went down. So what would happen? Frugal comes in. There is nothing wrong with using papers. So there is one workshop that we went, they even use masking tape. So you can ask your kids, find, perhaps if they don't have a masking tape, find pens, pencils, stationaries with rubber bands, okay, and build anything that is circle and make sure it rolls, you know, and then they have to go around the house because they are not in schools. So can they locate what are the things, the stationaries that they are there? They can even use erasers, they can even use ruler, but as long as they tie it together with a rubber band and make sure that it rolls for perhaps a meter of length. So that is innovation as well. That is fun. Okay, so instead of just sitting in front of the camera and then you get inactive listener, but you get them to do something behind it. So, okay. And of course, finally, we try not to forget that, you know, Malaysia, or if we do have Indonesia team who is here, we come from Southeast Asia, the most beautiful place with diverse sort of culture. And our culture are not being tainted as yet. So it's nice to actually incorporate all this diverse culture into the content. Dr. Fitri and I, we have been, or run this project since 2017, and I reckon you may agree or you may not agree that we find that a lot of content are very westernized. When you get books and then you flip through books that you buy off the shelf in shops, you get to see macaroon, cheese. What happens to all the kolomi, laksa, satay? These are simple cultural elements that would be nice to be included into our content, our educational content. Not too much of Western, but we need to preserve our culture. So identify communities, whichever school you're in, communities nearby will do. Even communities within your students' parents, your own parents, your own family. What are the problems? Challenge one another. So I won't stress only on students, challenge also to ourselves, as well as teachers, as well as your colleagues and so on, in promoting STEM. So I won't say STEM as STEM. I think I should have put STEM plus education. And that is what we want to move forward to. So I know I have a lot of slides. The rest of the slides are just images that if you're looking at it, to summarize all those. And of course, we need to promote diversity, and that's what we have. Flexible learning space. This is a new learning space with the post-COVID, whether we can actually come back to classroom. But if we do with limited students, or if we can't, nothing should be able to stop us in passing down the knowledge. And of course, these are the measure. So before we end, we do want to also call for educators and partners. If you're interested to participate and join us in this exciting project, it's not only open for Sarawakians, but also in West Malaysia. We'll be looking at building ACES model, educational models, and then the blueprint. And then we are also calling for success story. All of you are already a walking success story. Everyone are a walking success story. So if you do have success story, what you have done, perhaps not just after you have captured, from this workshop, after going through this workshop and then you implement, but perhaps you have done innovations in your classroom and you want to share with us, please feel free. Our email is at the bottom, creativeculture.my@gmail.com. Email us, and then we will actually contact you and we will discuss with you, we will talk with you, and we will also promote your work because we work together with Vietnam, Indonesia, and the UK. So we do want to promote your work outside. So let's not keep it inside Tong Keropok, all this knowledge, but let's promote it outside to the world. Okay, so I have in front of me, we have the Remix Play. This is our gamification blueprint, and I think Dr. Fitri have showed you the play cards. And then we have the What's Your Story as well that you have seen. So we localize the What's Your Story with our culture. And then we have the what you have gone through the design thinking in a Malaysian version. Okay, for the teachers, and then also and that's it. All this, if you're interested to have a hard copy of it, please again email us. We will see what we can do. If we have extra, I think we do have extra, we can always post it to you, or just contact us if you're interested to know all this. Okay, excellent. So it has been indeed a wonderful day, and I hope we definitely have spoken to the team and they have definitely learned a lot from you all. So we are all learning from one another, and I hope you too have learned and have captured and have got a lot of things back from the whole day's workshop. And thank you so much again. So any questions? No questions? Tired already? Okay. So with that, we thank you so much to you all. Very good job with all the games, and keep up the good work. Right, thank you. Thank you so much, and everyone from ACES also would like to thank you. Okay. Stop sharing. Yeah, well done. No question. Can I have the screen for morning session? Yes, we will, once the recording is done, they're compiling it, we will share it on our website. I'll type it here straight away at www.creativeculture.my. Okay, it's not there yet. If you want to follow us on Facebook, Facebook, it is at creativeculture.my. All right. Thank you, everyone. Twitter. Twitter. Twitter is not so active. My caps _ my capsule. Oh, sorry. Sorry, that's a bad _ my capsule. Twitter. I did a typo mistake. Oh, we keep in touch again. We'll see you again in the next workshop and so on. Thanks. Bye bye all.